Hey everyone, while people are still entering in, so we'll wait a while and I'm gonna spotlight myself and start by saying I'm so excited that you all are here, and I'd love to see your faces, the one that I know, the one that I don't know. It's nicer. Hi, Asim. You are on your car. It's okay if I won't see your face. Don't do any car accident, please. So many new faces and faces I know. I'm so excited. And yeah, let's start while we are waiting for people to come in, just to see where everyone are from. Just write on the chat, where are you from? So we have like this knowledge. Some of you I know, so I know India is here, people from India and from Turkey and London. Hi, so it's a very good morning for you. And Australia, it's a good evening. Yes, Tanya. Yes, and again, London and India, it's afternoon. Sometimes I feel myself as a global clock. I started to know everyone, their time zone. From Belgium, morning, yes. That's your CET, if I'm not wrong. And yes, so if you can be with your camera open, it will be great. If not, I understand that. Finland, hi Noah, hi. It's nice that you are here. And snow, wow. Okay. Yes, winter is in half of the globe. Australia is summer, right? Yes, yes. Okay, okay, if you can't show your face, it's okay. If you're okay, if you're here. People are still entering in. But I think we're gonna respect all the one that came at time. And I know they are here that it's, I don't know if it's late night or really early morning, Canada. So we have all the globalies here. So it's quite exciting. And I'm very excited to be here with you. And I'm sorry a little bit about my voice. So I'm having a little bit of a cold. Let's start. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so I tried to everything be accurate, and as you know, when you're so excited, nothing goes right. So something like that. So let's start. Okay, so I'm Yael. I'm a family constellator. I'm a family constellator facilitator, but I'm also the Karmic constellator developer. And what we're going to talk today is a little bit about karma, about how you can work with karma with the constellation tool. And before we start, I'd love you to raise your hand if you have no idea what family constellation is. Okay, so if none of you raised your hand or your mechanical hands, I assume that all of you are from family constellation field. So it will be easier to explain. But I will say that karmic constellation can be taught and learned for people that don't know family constellation. It's a tool that have similar stuff similar elements like family constellation, but also you can work without knowing family constellation methods. So, Karmic constellation. A little bit about me, for those of you that don't know me. I'm a family constellation trainer and facilitator. I teach in Israel. I'm an energetic healer. I actually started my business, the way I work with energetic healing. I'm doing energetic healing for the last 20 years. I'm a channeler, I'm a medium. I'm a step in trauma work with somatic experiencing, and I needed to be a little bit more conventional also, so I also have MA in family consulting. And I'm doing all of that for the last 20 years. Sorry. And we're going to speak today about karma and karmic constellation, and I want to share with you a little bit of the story, what brought you to do that. So 20 years ago, when I just started, I was practicing an energetic method called EMF balancing technique. And then I was introduced to a channeler called Lee Carroll. He's channeling the magnetic archangel, the Earth magnetic field. His name is Crayon. And I don't really follow channelers, but when I hear Crayon many times, my heart is open, my field is expanded, and there are things that he says that resonate with me in a real deep level. So I heard him for many years. I also read Michael Newton's book, Journey of the Soul, and the two others. And just reading them, working with in my clinic with healing methods, trying to figure out how can I change karma. Crayon says that we can change karma. And something within me starts to say, yes, I know. And then Crayon says, we can work with the Akashic records. We can take from the Akashic records whatever information we need to this life. And through working with the Akashic records, we can change karma. And when I heard that, something within me said, yes, this is true. We can do that. But I have no idea how to do that. So for something like 15 really frustrating years, I just knew it's the truth, but I didn't have any tool, didn't know what to do with that. And then I studied family constellation. I went to study family constellation because I worked mainly with parents. In Israel, I also published a book called The Alchemy of Parenthood. So I went to study family constellation to understand how those past transgenerational trauma goes from generation to generation. And mainly I went to study how to stop them. And learning family constellation felt like home. It was a language I knew. I came back home. And a year after I finished to study, I established the Constellation Lab in Israel, still doing this Constellation Lab, also in person in Israel and also online. And the Constellation Lab is a space where I decided that I'm going to explore all kinds of things. So it's started with exploring really things that Bert Hellinger has done and I haven't learned, like how to do constellation in silent, how to do and can we do constellation if the person, the client, is not in the room. Can we do far distance constellation? Yes, we can. And then I decided to go deep, to go back to my healing work. Can we do constellation and chakra work? Yes, we can. So I started to explore. And in that time, I actually didn't read Cryon's channeling anymore. I think I took a break for several years. And then it came back to me. And again, I read about the Akashic records. And again, I was, wow, I want to change my karma. I want to go to the Akashic records and to take the knowledge I need to take. I want to take that it can change my life. Can we do it in constellation? Can I put representation on felts? So in Israel, we work with felts and go to the Akashic records. So I tried it in Constellation Lab. And the answer was, yes, we can. And it was amazing. So for me, it wasn't about going to past life. It was just, can I take the knowledge I need? So the first time I did it, I was working on belonging. I put representation to the Akashic records. And then I put like, I think 10 felts for remembering belonging. And actually the first remembrance I had was me in the age of 12 in a place that I didn't feel belonged to it at all, but I lived in. But the remembrance was of a situation that I felt included and belonging, and I felt that the place I lived in was proud of me, and it was wow. So I completely deleted this memory from my life. It didn't work with my narrative that I don't belong. And the first memory that the Akashic records brought me was a memory from this life. And then I stood on other felts, and then came to me memories from past life. And it was amazing because it was that easy. No trance, no going into 2 hours of deep meditation, just standing on felts. And when I tried it in the lab with other people, not only myself, it also worked. So I went into a year of Constellation Lab only on the Akashic records. And what I found out were not only the Akashic records, but all the working with past life. So actually, Karmic constellation is a past life regression without the regression part. Just working with past life and working with the soul systems. So we can work with past life, we can work with Akashic records, we can work with all kinds of soul realms, we can work with other planets and stars. And I am still experimenting in the Constellation Lab and still learning. So Karmic constellation is a method, is a quite young method, 5 or 6 years. I actually started to teach it 3 months before the COVID came. And then it went online. So you can do the math yourself. And it gets developed all the time. So in that way, I'm humbly say I'm a little bit like Bert Hellinger. I have those things I think about the soul realm and the soul systems, and then we just explore them. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I'm not. I'm not right. Sometimes I have to say, like, there are things I read in Michael Newton's book, and they didn't feel correct to me. But then when I did constellation, he was right. So I'm always coming with this not knowing and knowing point of view to a session when I do a session. And any question until now, or we can dive into karma and the way I see karma. Any questions? You can just open your mic if you have any. Yes, Kai.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
You can. So when you say you brought in the Akashic records, did you bring in a representative for the Akashic records? Is that what you're saying? You brought in a fellow.
This is my Akashic records.
Got it. Yes. And you just asked for the information through the Akashic records as a representative. Amazing.
Yes.
But what if there were more than one source of that issue? So say you have an issue with belonging. Maybe there is a source in this lifetime, but maybe a past life, maybe an intergenerational. Would that one representative give you all that information?
It can, yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I will say that in the training that I teach, the Karmic constellation, I teach also how to work with the Akashic records. It's 1 day working only with the Akashic records. And I'll also say that I started with the Akashic records, and then it developed to a bigger method. So my aim was only to explore. I never thought I will develop anything from constellation. And just by exploring the Akashic records, the methods revealed itself to me, and then the Akashic records became a tool I can use in Karmic constellation. They're not the tool. So there are many ways today to work, and the Akashic records are only one of them, but they are the one that brought me to the method. Yes, thank you for your question. And yes, you will get a copy of the recording. The minute the session will end, I will record it and send it to you. It will take me a few hours, but you will get it. And okay, so any other questions, or we continue? Okay, so karma has several ways, the way people see karma. And I will say I have never studied any other method. So I'm having the Western way of looking at karma. Although speaking of karma is in all religions, just in different ways. And I never liked the idea of punishment. So you are suffering now because of what you have done in past life, or you need to correct. We are great as we are. No one needs to correct us. We're okay. So the way I see karma, and I will say the way Crayon sees karma, and it resonated with me, was it's like accumulated energies that we come with them to this incarnation. And because they are accumulated, they are influencing us a lot. But we can change it. And also, I will say that trauma shapes our life as human. So trauma doesn't shape animals in the wild, but they do. Actually, they do shape it does shape animals, home, how you say, domestic animals, and we are domestic animals. So trauma shapes our life. So if one had a huge trauma in this life, it will color his life. The same with past life. If we had a huge trauma in past life, or if we had small traumas that 1 + 1 + 1 made it 100 and not 3, they will shape our life. So karma is about energies that we are coming to this life with them, and they are shaping our life. But who says we have to take those energies all the time? Who says we can shift them? Who says we have to burn and die with the same energies? It's a narrative that was once right, and it's not right anymore. We are in the change. We are in a period of time that we can change karma. Everyone says it. It's like all the astrologies, the Mayan, everyone. So how do we change trauma? Or how do we change karma? We change the trauma. We take the tools of working with trauma that we know, we take them to past life, and we work with that. And when things resolve in past life, they resolve here and now. So you are all from family constellation, so it's the same, but instead of working with mom, dad, grandparents, we work only with our soul, only with us in other life, not mom and dad, unless they are part of our past life. But usually when I do karmic constellation, it's only us with ourselves in our past life and the traumatic thing that happened in past life. And when we heal that, we change our life. So can we change karma? Yes. We can go to the energies from past life, dissolve them and solve them, and it will change here. And why should we change it? So our life would be better. And there is a question I am always being asked. Is it okay to change karma? So one of the narratives we have is that we having what we have because we need to learn from it. And what I want to offer is that many times we have ended the lesson. We have already learned what we need to learn and what we have to learn, but we don't know how to shift to another soul lesson. So we get stuck in the same lesson that we already understood, and we don't know how to do the changes. And this is why, the way I see it, when people come to past life regression therapy, karmic constellation, even family constellation, it's about healing. If we can change the family history, energetic history, why can't we change the soul energetic history? For me, it's the same. And if it's not the right time, they will not let us to do that. So not like in other methods that the facilitator can change soul contract by doing whatever he's doing. In karmic constellation, we work with the client and we work with the field. And if the field says no, whatever we'll try, it won't work. Unless it's a vow, and then we work on the vow, but this is something else. So if someone comes to me and say, I had enough with bad relationship, many times it means he's okay to move forward, to change things in his life. And if it's not right for the soul, nothing will work. So I'm not worried about me taking over his karma and changing his karma. It's a question I am being asked a lot. So I wanted to give you that before continuing. And okay, before we do family constellation and the differences between all of them, I want us to do a mini session as I promised. So please bring 6 objects to represent. And you're all from the family constellation field, which is nice, but I will say that object can be, so I work with felts, so it can be felts, but it can be anything you have near you, like that. It can be sticky notes, or notes. So if you bring in sticky notes, you can write on them. If not, you don't really need to write on them. And while you're bringing all those objects, if there are any questions, I think now it's a good time to ask them. Yes, Kai.
In family constellations, if we don't get permission from a parent or a grandparent, we would usually go back another generation until we get permission. With karmic constellations, you're saying it works a little bit differently.
Okay. So we probably don't even do family constellation the same, you and me. Okay. Sometimes if there is no permission, there is no permission, and we need to acknowledge that and be with that. Mm-hmm. In the soul realm, it's always about us. So it's like, it's not about permission, it's about actually more letting go. Letting go of responsibility to a lifetime that I'm not living anymore. Letting go from the attachment. Yep. Okay. So I had this session once that in past life, she was an orphan and she suffered quite a while. And we are not in karmic constellation, we are not about healing past life and not about corrective experiencing. What happened, happened. It's about acknowledging, about releasing the entanglement and separating each life to its own. So and she didn't want to let go. Like her mother instinct in this life, she couldn't let go of this child, but this child had already died. So I know it's not really linear and it's all parallel, but when we look at it a little bit as linear, it's about letting go what happened. And sometimes you end the session with, I'm not willing to let go of part of myself. And it's okay. Yeah. I don't like it as a facilitator, but this is what the soul is ready to do, or this is what the human perspective is willing to do right now. And we need to honor that.
So it's about acceptance.
Acknowledging, acceptance, and also knowing your limitations. Yeah. But many times after you acknowledge, like in constellation, it might not heal in the session, but it will change in life.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So 2 more questions and then we go to the session. How we know what happens in past life. I'm sorry, I get into the meeting. I didn't talk about it. How we know, the field reveals it by representing. The field will show us what happened in past life. Many times there will be stories, many times there will be only sensation. When we work with our soul, does it resolve issue with family too? It might. So the soul chooses to come to this family in order to resolve her issue. And this is when soul and family goes together. But many times you don't need, you can do only karmic constellation, it will help. Many times you do only family constellation, it will help. I can tell you that whenever family constellation, we did sessions and sessions and sessions and nothing worked, then karmic constellation do a wonderful job. Really, it's like suddenly everything goes because something in the soul realm was not accepting, allowing, maybe there was a vow. And then when you do this work, things shifts. I will answer that later. Okay, so let's start. So we are bringing, I asked you to bring 6, we start with 4. So the first representation is for me in this incarnation. Very important that in this incarnation, because if it's just me, it can be you in other lifetime. So the first one is me in this incarnation. The second one is for my soul. The third one is for an issue I have in my life. Okay? Any issue you want to, finance, a relationship, parenthood, parenting, whatever you want to, business. And the fourth will be the soul lesson regarding that issue. And we're going to do a mini session, which means it's not a full 2-hour session. It's just something like 10 minutes, 15 minutes demonstration, but it's not only a demonstration, it will work. You will feel. So, and it's a constructive session, which means I'm telling you what to do. You are feel free to feel whatever you feel, but I'm telling you what to do. So put your hands on me in this incarnation. Or if you put felts and you want to stand on them, you can stand on them. And notice what comes up. Any sensations, feelings, emotions. Just notice. Don't move the felt yet or the objects. Just notice. And take your hands off and put it on my soul. And notice what comes up. Again, just noticing we're not moving them. And take your hands off and put it on the issue. And notice what comes up. Again, just noticing. And take your hands off and put it on the soul lesson regarding that issue.
Can you repeat?
The soul lesson regarding that issue.
Okay.
And take your hand and notice what comes up. And now take your hands off and put it on your soul. And notice what comes up, and also notice, does it wants to move? And if it wants to move, you can move it and notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on my soul. And notice what comes up, and if it wants to move, move it, and notice the change in the energy. Take your hands off and put it on the issue. And notice what comes up. And if it wants to move, move it, and notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on the soul lesson. Notice what comes up. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on me in this incarnation and notice what comes up. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on my soul. Notice what comes up. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on the issue. Notice what comes up. And if he wants to move, move it, and notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on the soul lesson. Notice what comes up. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And now I want you to bring another representation. Bring representation to the past life that this soul lesson was created in. Okay, I'll repeat it. Sorry, the past life that this soul lesson was created in. Don't put your hands on it, just bring it. And put your hands now again on me. And notice what comes up now. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on my soul. And notice what comes up now. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on the issue. Notice what comes up, and if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on soul lesson. And notice what comes up. And if it wants to move, move it. And notice a change in the energy. Now take your hands off and put it on the past life. Notice what comes up, and also notice if there are any images that coming up, any stories. If yes, it's okay. If not, it's also okay. You're just a little bit expanding our senses and experiments. Notice if it wants to move or not, and if it wants to move, move it. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off, and we're going to do it one last time and put it on my soul. Notice what comes up. And also notice, is my soul stands in her optimal place? If yes, great. If not, move it to the place which will be more optimal to her. We don't have to know what means optimal. And when she is in her optimal place, notice a change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on the issue. And again, is the issue is in his optimal place at? If yes, okay, great. If not, move it to his optimal place. And notice what happens when he is at his optimal place. What has changed in the energy? And take your hands off. And put it on the soul lesson. And notice again, is the soul lesson place is the optimal place, or is there is an optimal place, a different one? And if so, move it to her optimal place. And notice the change in the energy. And take your hands off and put it on the past life. And notice what comes up. Is the past life are at their optimal place? If yes, keep them there. If not, move them. To their optimal place. And notice a change in the energy. And now take your hands and put it on me in this incarnation. Are you in your optimal place? If yes, good. If not, move to your optimal place. And look at all the formation. It has changed since we started. How does it feel? What happens within you when you see the changes that happened? How does it feel? What are the sensations in your body? What changes do you feel within you? And take your hands off and gently come back here. Look at the formation. Notice, is it comfortable what happened? The way the shape looks like right now. And if so, leave it. If not, and you feel this urge within you to change things, you can change them now. But if everything is okay, don't touch. And look, just look and observe. Okay. And you can do this mini session again and again. This is one of the reasons I'm sending the recordings anytime on a different issue. And I'd love to hear one or two. How was it for you? And did you saw past life or just sense things? Like if anyone is willing to share, courage enough. And if not, it's okay.
Hey, good morning.
Okay, Mayan, you wanted to speak.
Yes, how are you? At the first time, before when you say put your hand on the issue or the soulmate and everything, I feel sometimes pressure in my in the area of the neck, and when I move it, it gets free. And when I touch in the past life, I didn't feel it, but when I move again, I'm here. I feel it again, but this time it was a pressure that was much stronger. And then when I move it again, it gets free.
Wow.
Yes, the second time when you say put the end at the past life, and saw if you see something, I saw like a roof of a house, but it was only the roof, so I don't know.
Yes, okay, I don't know either, but what you bring in is wonderful, because constellation is about movement. It can be a movement of the felts, but it can also be the movement of the sensation without even know the story. And this is what you're bringing. I moved the felt. I have no idea why, or just moved them, and the sensation shifted. Yes. And this is constellation.
It was really strong. I noticed that sometime I put the hand and suddenly I feel it and I say, no, I don't want it. I get out the hand and it gets free.
Yes. And we can sense things without even knowing what the story is.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mayan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Liz, I hope, say, yeah, much more space. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you. I've did that with my eyes closed, moving the pieces around, and we found it very interesting. And when I look at it now, it sort of makes sense. But it wasn't something that I could have predicted. What I particularly was curious about was that when I moved the past life representative, I noticed how distracted I'd become, almost as if I didn't really want to look at it. And I haven't really looked at that in quite that way before, so maybe that's part of it. But I did notice with curiosity that how suddenly I'd become distracted. So that suggests to me I need to look at that a little bit more.
Yes. And many times we really don't want to look at the past life because they contain a huge amount of trauma. So we'd rather not look at it. Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So there was a question before we started about when do I decide to do a family or karmic constellation. It really depends on the story, on the client. If a client comes to me and says, I have done lots of family constellation, I immediately say, let's do karmic constellation. If he calls to me and say, I want to come to karmic constellation, I don't argue. So it really depends. And sometimes I just start a session. So I had this session once that I don't remember about what it was, but whenever she stood on herself, she saw cats. Cats. And I asked her, do you have cats? And she said, no. And cats are very spiritual animals. I don't have cats, but I know they are very spiritual. And that meant to me, let's do karmic. So I allowed the field to guide me when the client is okay of not knowing whether I'm going here or that way. So, and sometimes when the client brings representation, I feel that there are several dimensions in the field. And also it means to me, let's do karmic. And sometimes I have no idea. So I bring representation to family, representation to past life. I ask him which one of them you're more interested in or which one really dislike. And when he says, I dislike this, I will go to what he dislikes. Because whatever he doesn't want to face, this is why he came to me. So this is one of the several ways that I'm choosing how to work with. So I know we have a little bit time. So you know what, I'll talk about the training. So it's a 14 weeks training. We start at January 20th. Those are the time IST is India time. And it's quite like now. the same hours like now, but 3.5 hours. So all the topics are actually, I wrote them in the website, but I'll read them fast, about the concept of representing, which you know, but also the differences between representing in family constellation and representing in karmic constellation, and the differences of the principles. Like the order of love doesn't exist in karmic constellation. Any order at all doesn't exist. It's a parallel universe. We have no order. About the soul, how to work with the soul perspective. About belonging, again, it's different than the belonging of family constellation. About entanglements, in how we work with them in the karmic perspective. About how we work and see soul family in constellation, which is quite new. I didn't work with soul family until last year. And then actually when I taught online, then I suddenly start to see them. And now I can teach how to work with them because I see them. The world of phenomena in karmic constellation, it's not the same as in family. So like if in family constellation, this is feminine energy and this is masculine energy, doesn't mean it's the same in karmic constellation. I don't look at them the same. Working with past life, why, what is the purpose of that, and how to work with them. We will learn about soul contract, about soul lessons, about vows and curses, which is very important. And I will tell you that for me, in my life, the way I was raised, I didn't care about vows and curses. It's not something I was raised to believe in. But I have learned that they're really important. We have a lesson about the akashic records, about soul fragments, and about the soul choices of the order of siblings. After 2 or 3 labs, I can tell you it's not the same as family constellation. I was actually quite surprised by that. But the reason the soul comes as the big one or the eldest or the youngest, quite different than what we teach about in family constellation. So it's quite interesting that way. I have no idea what do you mean by, are there other tools? I didn't use the 6th representation. And what you will get from the training. So how to facilitate with karmic constellation, to work with that. I have lots of my students that do work with that. Either doing both family and karmic constellation, or I have a client, a student in Australia. She have this, the way she works, and she says, I put it in all my clinic work. We start with something and we always end with karmic constellation, and it does a magnificent shift to the client. So I was really moved when she told me that. You will get certificate. You need to be present in 80% of the training. I am recording the class, but you still need to be. I am not recording the demos, only the theory, because I do not like that things are online. Like demos online feels always too risky. So I record only the theory and the studying, but not the demos. In the end of the class, you'll get a training ebook. And while you're in the training with me, and 3 months later, there is a discount for all the sessions, private session with me, and all my workshops, my labs, payment, and more gifts. So it's 1,100 euros, 10% until the 7th of January. If you register today, you'll get 3 more gifts. Healing wounds of 2 more pre-recorded sessions, healing wounds of the soul and undo vow, something you can do with yourself, and a chance to do a supervision session with me, which costs 110 euro. And to register, it's paying, and to get all the gifts, it's to pay in the next 24 hours, 10 euros in the website. I do give up to 5 payments for the total amount in January. You don't have to pay everything now. And those are my details, and I will put them also in the chat. Any questions or anything you want to ask about anything? I know I did the last session fast because I don't really like not being on time, and we are out of time. So I really appreciate that you are staying. So these are all my details. Nima, you ask about, are there other tools? I don't understand the question. So if you can open your mic and ask. Nima. Okay, and what days? The days are on Friday, like that, the same hours. Like in Israel now, it's 11, but 10 to 1:30. So it's 1:30. In India, it's 1:30 till I think 5, 3.5 hours. London, it's 8 to I'm so bad in math. Not 10, 11, 11:30. So and 14s. Okay, thank you, Kai, for coming. Have a lovely day. Yes. And yes, and when you do karmic constellation, I will say it's different from past life regression, because the client is always with you. It doesn't have to go into deep meditation. And it's different from akashic reading, because you work with him together. All the information comes from within him, which I believe and experience give him the power of his life, and that gives me the power of his session. So those are 2 tools why I really prefer karmic constellation on other tools. I know how to do the other tools, but this is why I really like to work. And you can combine karmic constellation in every session you do. So I do it usually in 2-hour session, but in the past month, I did it twice in an SE session. Just something from past life pop in, we brought representation, and then we do it. So it can be like that. And if anyone needs to go, I understand, and thank you for coming. The training is 14 weeks. Every Friday, we do jump in the middle because I have other obligations. Yeah, but it's 14 weeks of learning everything I know. Everything I know, I give to you. Something like that. Any other questions? If you have any. Okay.
Nora here. Yes. What is the starting date?
January 20.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and it's 3.5 hours per week. And again, I'll say if you register for the next 24 hours, you'll get also all the gifts. And yeah, the discount, you get it anyway. So thank you very much for coming. If there are any other questions, you can ask me. I'll stay here for the next something like 5 minutes. And I'm also available on email, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, Signal. Yeah, so thank you very much for being here today. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Yeah, all of you. Thank you. Bye for now.